You're listening to the Moist Boys Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Josh. I just wanted to throw a quick spoiler alert for the series Love, Death, and Robots. We don't go into each episode point by point, but we do throw up a lot of spoilers. So if you want to go completely spoiler free, I would suggest watching the episodes first and then coming back to this. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. All right. Well, everybody, welcome, special guests. This is a very special episode. Everybody, I'm pregnant. I just want to...
Congratulations.
This is our very special episode of the Moist Boys Podcast. Not only am I pregnant, I'm also hooked on Adderall. I'm bullying a kid at school. Whatever else they do. Drinking. You know, the whole... Everything that there is.
6 months pregnant. You didn't find out till you were 6 months pregnant.
Exactly.
It's a partying lifestyle.
He's been drinking lean for the last 2 days straight.
But the actual reason this is a very special episode is because we're actually getting to do this one in person for the first time. Yeah, that's nice. We also have some special guests. So I'm just going to go around the room. My name is Josh. If you've listened into this before, the one person who's listened to all of these.
Thank you.
Not, including myself.
I was like, wait, including myself too.
So the two
we
people
have
that have
negative
listened
one
to
listener. Hell yeah.
But yeah, I'm Josh.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm the best bro, Heather.
My name is Harley.
And I'm Kyle.
And today we're going to be talking about a special little show that touched all of our hearts.
In all the best ways.
Not just our hearts.
Our hearts.
And our private places.
Our vagines.
Our bobs.
Our peebuses. Our titties. The whole... if it can be touched, it was touched.
And our brains.
And our hearts.
And our souls.
Okay.
Love, Death, Robots. The new Netflix... Well, kind of new at this point, Netflix
So
series.
I was concerned that we were like... striking while the iron was cold on this one, but literally I have seen people like yesterday being like, have you guys heard of this new cool thing, Love, Death, and Robots? And I was like, oh yeah, we're fine. We're fine.
Burn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Love, Death, and Robots.
Robots. So yeah, it's an animated series produced by Tim Miller that directed the first Deadpool movie. Also David Fincher, who is very famous for directing all kinds of movies, Fight Club, Zodiac.
Seven?
Yeah,
that's right.
So they produced some of these. Actually found out, I saw an ad that at least one of these was actually produced independently and then just thrown in.
I didn't know that.
Was that the dump?
No, it was actually...
Because maybe they should stop doing that.
Don't do that ever again.
Sorry. Too soon.
Chronological order.
Sorry.
It was actually Zima Blue actually saw a Facebook ad.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they're like from so-and-so studios.
Oh, we'll get there. Don't worry.
I have opinions. Oh, cool.
Also, on that note, I didn't realize it until later. Tim Miller actually directed Ice Age.
Oh,
the first one?
Yeah?
I think it was like
just stop what you're doing right now.
Like with John Leguizamo?
Get out of
John
my house.
Leguizamo vehicle that is Ice Age?
Harley, you said an hour. You're going to give us an hour.
You gave us 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's usually
That's a
how long it
Harley
takes.
hour.
That's a Harley hour.
That's not wrong.
So
His wife will tell you that too.
Oh.
let's start our deep dive. This is the series as a whole is about 3.5 hours long, so we'll see if we can get in under that. Talking about these episodes. So the first episode we're going to talk about is Sunny's Edge. It's about kaiju fighting, I guess. Would be
Beastie fighting.
Kaiju fighting.
It's basically sexy Pokemon.
Sexy Pokemon.
Yeah.
Except for you merge, so it's like kind of kaiju, kind of
Matrixy, kind of like
if all the characters in Pacific Rim were one character, like if instead of merging with a robot for Pacific Rim, you were merging with a kaiju for Pacific Rim.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, they're not that big though.
They're not. I didn't
They're so
say,
big.
I didn't
Are they
say
really
it was
kaiju?
a giant Godzilla kaiju. I just said it was kaiju.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is grape ape a kaiju? Sorry. Moving on. Sunny's Edge.
Sunny's
That
Edge.
was a rough one to be to have
start
that be
with?
the first episode to this anthology is rough.
Yeah,
But that really it gets you like it sets you up for like what you're gonna sit through for the next
Yeah, but
3.5
it
hours.
also
Though.
is a turnoff for some people.
That's
if
fair.
you're not warned that it's going to be different
Like-
from this each time, you turn away from it.
Yeah.
Harley's wife turned away from this
She
because she was
was
like, "Nope, I'm
not
done.
down to hang
I
after
can't
the
be
first
with this
one."
anymore."
Yeah.
If I had not been warned, I would not have watched past that. I wouldn't have. I mean, it was great. Now that I go back and I'm like, have had time to process
Yeah.
what the fuck I just saw on the screen.
We definitely went and searched for like YouTube kittens for like an hour after watching that episode just for the
Yeah.
palate cleanser. But
It's rough.
I mean, it's a series called Love, Death, and Robots, and this one definitely has death and robots.
Yeah.
What I feel like the love they kind of didn't see any of
I
that.
really feel like
Well,
this shouldn't have
maybe
been
in
called
one of
Love,
them.
Death, and Robots so much as it should have been called Sex, Death, and Robots.
That's honestly, I feel like I keep calling it that.
I
not
do. I
meaning
keep wanting to
Yeah.
call it that
Well,
because
there's okay. So yes and no. There are also episodes within this that have 0% robots.
That's true.
That's true.
So
And they're all garbage. What?
what? You shut your horn.
Sorry. Opinions.
So I think this is just like kind of like a qualifier of like
Does it
these
have
things
this? Does it
will
have this?
may have one of these aspects. So because Sunny's Edge is mostly about like hyperviolence and fear and getting over that fear in order to stay alive, essentially. And so there's absolutely nowhere in that storyline to just be like, and she was actually in love with insert something, or like there's no place for it.
Oh yeah, I mean they shouldn't have shoehorned that in by any means to
Yeah.
each episode. And actually, to your point, I like the fact that at the beginning of each episode, that since we are talking about the first episode, they had that little like image where the three little kind of what
the like
avatars or like
slot machine.
yeah, like that would actually kind of it would
rotation.
give you at least an idea of what to expect. So I think that made it a little easier.
So I guess we can just go around real quick and kind of give our little mini reviews of this episode. I think there was a lot that I liked about it. I think my problems that I have with this episode are the same problems that I have with a lot of the further ongoing episodes.
I think it encapsulated the best and the worst of the series.
Yeah,
One
because
little microcosm. So.
I would say probably the first 80% of it, I was along for the ride, and then you kind of get to the end. Well, there was a couple of things I kind of missed early on, like the villain's name is Dicko, which is it's just a little on the nose.
Yeah.
On the dick, maybe.
Yeah.
Heyo.
And then there is a thing in media that does bug me, where if you want to have an interesting female character, you just make her, oh, she was raped.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
What's her personality?
Yeah.
Oh, she was raped. And like, it doesn't really go anywhere. Like, she could have just been beaten up, or she could have been in an accident. Any kind of like physical violence would have served the exact same purpose of
like
the story.
the whole thing about it, anyway, from like my perspective of watching it, is that so the idea basically is that her body's dead.
Yeah.
The only time she actually is alive is when she is the
In the
beast
ring.
fighting.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the idea of like literally anything could have happened that put her to that state. You didn't have to make it so that she was raped, and that's
Yeah.
why she's.
And like,
It's a
also,
very common trope right now, I feel like.
Yeah.
To your point, yeah. Which, I mean, I'll preface everything that I'll say about the series and that I am very not... I just don't feel like sexual violence necessarily needs to be depicted in media, and I think if it's going to be done, it really needs to be handled, like, gracefully. And again, this wasn't actually depicted. However, I mean, I guess by the end of the episode, one could, argue that it was, but I think that's just always something that's kind of an instant turnoff for me. So
yeah. And also like completely unnecessary nudity, which I don't think any of the episodes really earned like it was just kind of there to be there, and I think this was really emblematic of that. And then I was like really, I was really grossed out. I'm looking at Heather's face right now, and she's like doing a thing, but
I have a big point that nobody is making, and it really bothers me that I feel
That's why
you're here.
That's why you're here.
Sorry, Josh.
And then by the time they get to the end, and there's just like the woman is just like smashing her head in with a thing, I was just like, why are they keep showing? Why? And they slowly zoomed in on it as her like shoe is going in. I was just like, okay, you can stop. Okay, I get it. You can stop this now. And like her brains get everywhere, and it's like, okay, this can be.
Well, she just kept laughing. I think is why she kept stomping. Is because she kept laughing. But at the same time, like, we're good. Like,
yeah, like
we get it. You know, she's not going to be in the sequel, at least up until that point. I think. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, I think. But I do think that it has, of the kind of semi photorealistic animated ones, this is probably the better looking one.
Oh, I
wouldn't say.
agree.
I wouldn't say it's the best.
This is my point. This is what I didn't like about this, and I almost turned me off. Is that it felt like a freaking cutscene.
Yeah.
The entire thing felt like a cutscene to a video game I didn't want to play.
I was getting very like Ready Player One vibes from just the animation style in general.
Like the dialogue, the way everything felt like a goddamn cutscene to a video game I do not want to ever play.
Yeah.
Because gross, icky. The animation style was awful to me. I felt like
it's very rough.
It was rough,
dirty.
and it just felt like a video. In which, I mean, I like cutscenes. It's actually why I watch him play video games. Is because I'm like, just get to the fucking next cutscene. I want to see the story. But this felt like a cutscene to a video game I didn't want to watch.
A very Final Fantasy kind of feel almost.
A little bit, yeah. For me personally, I feel like the people did not look great. No. The actual beasts themselves, that fight looks great.
The beasties, beautiful.
Yeah, my mistake. The beasties
look great.
The beasties
looked the
good.
tits.
Yeah.
But like that whole
the tits didn't look like the tits though. I'm just saying they looked like bad video game tits.
2 grapefruits with some Hershey's Kisses slapped on top.
It really makes you go, have you seen a boob before? Because I don't think you have.
Bags of sand.
Weighty, like a bag of sand.
God, did we just date ourselves so badly?
Yeah.
Don't worry, no one's seen that movie, so they don't get the reference.
Nobody will get it. That's a deep cut. Nobody cares.
Let's see what else. Any other thoughts about Sunny's Edge?
I going into it, it definitely was a bit of a shock, but I actually liked it. Kind of thinking on it, the one thing that was interesting to me is that I believe that the battle, just like kind of walking through it scene by scene, that first image of the truck was interesting, and I don't know, I feel like that was kind of emblematic of the episode as a whole.
It's hidden.
It was hidden.
Secret.
Yeah, you had like the what is it, like the black light, like predators, and then
they glowed when they walked out. Their black
the
light,
aesthetic
that was
really
super cool.
And I think like on the truck itself, it actually had like what looked like circuitry kind of forming into a serpent. So it kind of like it gave like a little bit of a hint. And then also the fact that this was a weird thing that I didn't catch the first time. I'll admit I didn't find this. I kind of read about the episode, but the battle that the kaiju fight or the beasties fight took place in a church. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I feel it's a hidden. It's kind of a hidden feature, hidden point.
Like they don't really call a whole lot of attention to it.
No.
Their
world building is really kind of
subtle.
Yeah, which I liked.
Yeah. So as far as
digging for like positive things.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, overall, I enjoyed the episode.
Yeah.
I was kind of just like sitting there, just kind of going through and being like, okay, this is pretty cool. The token lesbian scene, that's fine. And then just like Lady Deathstrike out of nowhere, I was
Lady Deathstrike, right?
Oh, okay, this is taking a turn.
The last like 2 minutes of it were my favorite. I was not on board for any of this
until that moment.
Until that Lady Deathstrike, and then the twist, and that I hated visually how it looked, but in the end, I liked the story. I liked those last. If all of it had been those last 2 minutes. I mean, the kaiju fight was really cool too. I liked the black light. I was 30% on board. There were things I liked, but I wasn't going to watch past it probably.
Was anyone weirded out by the fact that the weird turtle-looking thing was called Turbo Raptor? And I just was like, I feel like that name doesn't really suit. It should be like slim, kind of like fast. It's like a velociraptor. No, just me.
Wait, which one?
You're a velociraptor.
You're a no, like the show, like her beast was called like
Carnivore.
Carnivore, and then she was fighting against something called Turbo Raptor. Raptor. Yeah, and it was like this big like Bowser. Yeah, it was Turbo Raptor.
Big old rock thing.
I know.
Yeah.
And like,
so that
and like the dinosaur nerd inside of me, like 9-year-old me, that's like fucking Stegosaurus, bro, was like, I was freaking out. I was like, nah, man,
like that is wrong
name. That's like an Ankylosaurus.
That's a
man-manosaurus. Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
That my one, not my one, but like one of the things I was like was the actual like beastie names. I was like, ooh, who let their 12-year-old in the writing room?
Yeah.
Well, probably when they came in to write one of the later episodes that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, that's
featuring
fair.
a bunch of robots. One of the robot episodes, it was written by this 12-year-old. It also is like, hey, throw some names on these beasties.
I wrote one of these stories as a 12-year-old. We have talked about this already.
We have talked about that. I'm excited to get there.
Oh, very okay. Definitely ready to hear that.
Unrelated to this, but one of my pet peeves with any kind of kaiju thing is when you have a space that's going to be used multiple times, but in the what you're watching, like they completely like trash it. Like when I was just thinking like during the kaiju arena fight, I'm like, wait, there's no like shield or anything around the people. They're just like getting slammed into the walls and people are like jumping away. I'm like,
how is the kaiju not just gonna slash a couple people's heads off as it's trying to get to the other kaiju? I was definitely like,
this shit's illegal. They don't care.
Yeah, but
that's true.
You still like, as a consumer of that, still protect yourself. Like you go watch cockfights, but you're not standing next to them. So that you
mean, I have not personally, Heather, but
yeah, I cannot advocate for that. I cannot believe that. Oh my god,
that
what?
sort of
but they protect.
Geez.
You know what? You see photos of this. They step back. They're not in the ring.
Yeah,
like,
now imagine that the chicken was like 70 feet tall.
And it's fighting Godzilla.
Well,
like, this is not okay.
I would say the argument for that is that they're actually controlling the monsters.
Yeah,
so I mean, I'm sure there's still.
But he pops out of it so often that there are times when his kaiju is not being controlled by him because he pops out and goes motherfucker, and then
surprise,
like pops back in it,
which was a great Dexter reference. Did anyone catch that?
Yeah. Like he's clearly not controlling this thing for it's only 10-20 seconds at a time, but it takes these things 5 seconds to swipe at each other. Like that's the consumer. Goodbye.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, obviously, if we were going to have our own black market like Monster Hunter,
we're gonna
battle.
We're
going to get some fences.
Yeah.
Get
I mean, if I'm going to have people paying money to see this shit, I'm going to continue to protect the people who are going to pay
You've already gotten their money. Who cares what happens?
I need them to return. I am a good businesswoman. I need return.
They're sitting in the splash zone. They're risking it already. Those tickets are cheap.
My question is, where are random people picking up like hyper killer aliens that they're just willing to kind of sacrifice every single battle? Like, are these? I mean, doesn't seem cheap. So,
also, how is she still alive? Like he was like fully in her body. Like she was dead. Like how is that kaiju still alive?
Because she put it back in the bantha tank, and then it's
because it's fucking Wolverine.
It's Bacta.
Yeah,
Banthas are the animals.
Banthas are the like.
Bacta is the gel.
My bad. Fuck.
You don't want to go. You don't want to go in a bantha tank.
I will see myself.
Want to go in the
nerd
bantha
points
tank.
Taken.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's
I
enough
feel like
for episode
everybody
one.
feel good about Sunny's Edge.
Yeah.
I had a lot of feels about something.
It elicited a lot of for sure.
So the next episode on our list is called 3 Robots.
Real quick, so I saw somebody posted an article about the episode order, about how Netflix was like looking into like what your viewing history was, and then was kind of going off of an algorithm and then changing the viewing order.
Really?
I specifically want to call bullshit on that because I initially watched it. Yeah. No. I initially watched it on a profile that I had made recently where I have watched literally 3 things was the IMDb order.
Yeah.
Heather's profile, when we rewatched it, we did it on her profile.
And I have like 11 years worth of viewing.
Yeah. Exact same order. So I don't know if that's something that they just like scrapped. They were maybe going to do that, which might have been interesting, but like
Also, no.
I mean, I think what I heard is that they like took the average viewership and used that to establish the order. It's not like it would be. It's not like a Bandersnatch thing where it's like kind of
a choose your own adventure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not built around your viewing. I think that's just
Okay.
kind of. I think that's what they use to inform the order. Yeah, because I mean, if that was true for me, it would just be all weeb shit up front, and like they probably wouldn't even have me watch any other. I'd get like 6 episodes maybe.
See, whereas mine would have been the more love-heavy ones would have been first because
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
what my profile.
Yeah.
Because I watch
Nothing
shitty
but the
rom-coms.
Decoy Bride on repeat.
I'm literally
shitty
just I am
rom-coms.
in between just searching for my next waifu. That's literally all. That's me on Netflix.
So one thing I did notice when I watched it is because I didn't watch them in order. So when
did I. Yeah.
when you hit if you go start at the beginning and watch them in order, it'll actually skip over the ones you've already watched.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what happened where they
Maybe, yeah.
had watched a couple of them set up differently and then decided to go back and was like, hey, these are in different order.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, the next one is 3 Robots, which I made the mistake of not watching this one earlier on. I actually this is like the 4th episode I watched.
Oh.
And by that point, I had started to kind of checked out
of it.
of the series, and I would just kind of like I just let it wash over me. But I did rewatch it, and I did end up liking it a lot better.
It's the perfect palate cleanser.
I would
Yeah.
say
First
I'm
episode.
really glad that this was the second one because Sunny's Edge was so rough.
Yeah, it was dark.
And it really showed the very dark side of this anthology, whereas 3 Robots showed how light it was gonna get.
I feel like that those 2 episodes give kind of the good
Yeah.
good understanding of the spectrum.
They're definitely the spectrum.
Yeah.
Here's one side, here's the other. Okay, everything else is gonna kind of be in between.
That's fair. I'm curious. We've talked about this.
Yeah,
one,
we've talked a little bit. I think 3 Robots was probably one of my least favorite episodes,
Really?
actually, which is this is what I was addressing in the pre-recording thing.
I think we've found the non-cat person in the room.
To be fair, I don't own any cats.
There it is.
Yeah, so I think I'm probably in the severe minority as far as not liking this episode.
I'm not far behind you, honestly.
Because
but
to me, this kind of humor, this like, oh wow, aliens find these random things funny and don't understand them, is just such a tired trope.
It's
to me.
very done. Yeah.
That when they said, oh, the humans used to use the entertainment sphere, it's like, wow, that I don't know, it does not hit my funny bone.
What really bothers me too is that these aren't robots from another world. These are robots from Earth, as we can you find out later in the episode when they find his like predecessor. So why isn't this ingrained knowledge? Like robots have these things. They that's what we like about robots, right? Is that they contain all of this crazy knowledge. That's why they're going to outlive us and they're going to destroy us and all this fun stuff. So why wouldn't this be built-in knowledge?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it's our old technology, but why wouldn't that be something they have built in?
I feel like the episode really struggles with some internal consistency as far as some of the points they're making there. And I did enjoy the individual characters and kind of how they play off each other to an extent. But to me, the humor just fell flat every single time. I was just kind of like, all right, well, I guess it'll be over in another, whatever it is, 7 minutes, and we'll move on to the
Like
next
60
one.
minutes tops. Just get through it.
And then we move into kind of, oh, well, and then the cats ended civilization because they got thumbs. And it was just kind of like, well, okay, great. I don't know. It just, to me, none of the humor really hit home, and the episode was very focused on sort of humor and not much else.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there was any underlying message or any kind of world building other than that, and it just kind of...
I'm not far behind you, Kyle. I didn't love this episode.
That's entirely fine.
It was
You're entitled to your opinion to be wrong.
It was a nice palate cleanser. Like, I'm really glad that this was the second episode from Sunny's Edge because I needed something that was, if we had gone into any other episode, I probably would have been like, fuck this, I'm done. Like, nope, I don't care what you have to say. Podcast can be damned. Like, I'm done.
We found our lining in the sand.
Yeah, it definitely was. it's because the humor didn't land, I think, is why I was like, all right, this is fine for me. Like, this is something. I will say that I disagree on one point, that I fucking loved that Civilization ended from polydactyl cats, because I definitely looked at Jonathan and was like, it's your guys' fucking fault, and wanted to run out of the room. Like, I love that it's polydactyl cats. I love that it's like, well, we figured out how to open our own tuna cans, and it's like, oh shit, and then there's just cats fucking everywhere, because these guys aren't getting out alive without petting them forever.
The thing about this episode that didn't really, that kind of was like, oh, is that where we're going with this, was for lack of a better term, Siri was a little on the nose for me some points. Like I thought the bit in the diner where she's talking about like, oh, some deity, blah, blah, blah. Just kidding. They came from a very warm soup. Like, okay, that's funny. And then like the end of the episode just basically being like literally her character looking into the camera and just being like, they fucking killed themselves because they polluted the ocean and the air. And I was like, yeah, yes, I understand. That's where we are. Like, we are literally on the brink of that.
Yeah.
Cool. But like, you don't have to have a character literally look into the camera and tell me that's where we are. Like, I didn't need that. But everything else I was pretty on board with. I did really like the squatty little robot. I liked him a lot, and the fact that he
the baby monitor
was a baby monitor that was just terrible at his job.
Right.
Yeah, I think this episode definitely lives and dies based on the interaction of the characters together, because I will agree the jokes aren't really original or very well written, but I think just based on the performances, I think that's what's going to sell. Yeah, the chemistry between the two actors.
3 actors.
Well, he only has like 3 lines at the very end.
No, Siri is like, she is on it in this
Wait, so is that actually is that?
I don't think it's actually her, but
okay,
I mean, like they use a computer program that sounds almost exactly like her.
Yeah. So yeah, like,
what you got, big boy? I don't know why. I mean, to contrast everything that's come since now, I love this episode. Like, I guess it's just for me. I'm an easy mark. Like, if the actors have chemistry and I like somewhat can, enjoy the situation that they're in, I'll eat it up. So I like the episode, but I agree that definitely there were some inconsistencies in their world building, and I mean, definitely kind of talking about like trying to have it be relevant to current events, I guess, was a little heavy-handed, but
yeah. So I think, because like this episode is pretty much just based around the humor, so there's not a huge philosophical stuff to go into. So I don't know if the next one's going to be divisive.
I think it will be, honestly. I'm pretty sure the next one's going to be pretty divisive.
This is
in
probably,
at least one aspect.
Is probably towards the bottom of the list as far as the episodes that I liked. It is called The Witness. This episode is kind of based entirely around the art style, which is kind of like a weird rotoscoping, half live action, half animated.
Yeah.
Which at first it's kind of interesting to look at. There's some interesting things to see, but like for me, a couple minutes in, like that aspect kind of dropped away and it wasn't as interesting to look at anymore. And then again, by the time you get to the like probably the most gratuitous nudity of the whole series, I was kind of checked out of it. So
I mean, if we're talking about kind of reused tropes, I feel like this one's probably the most guilty. I'm pretty sure this was basically just like Run Lola Run light in a sense.
Yeah. With a little bit of I always forget, is it 12 or 13 monkeys thrown in there?
12 monkeys. Yeah, 12 monkeys for sure.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Showgirls.
And a little bit of
cabaret. A little bit of cabaret.
A little bit of I've already forgotten the name of the movie, so I'm just gonna never mind. I'm gonna shut up now.
Oh, this also has the one of the this is probably the first appearance of Wang in the series too that I had forgotten about until just now.
Is there Wang in this one?
Yeah, Nolan North plays Vladimir, the Russian guy who's just like laying naked on the table.
Yep.
It's not as
Great
gratuitous.
fucking use of Nolan North.
Well, he'll come back.
Okay.
This is probably the better use of him, though, honestly.
Oh no.
Because we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
I feel like this episode was very much style over substance, and I mean it was interesting and aesthetically, I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I wanted there to be more psychedelic stuff when they're driving through the city in the cab.
Yeah.
Or instead, it's just kind of like an ugly city.
Gray buildings and a billboard.
Yeah, it's like
I found the aspect of the world building though to be one of the more interesting parts of the episode, in that they're driving through this city and there's no people, yet there's all these apartment buildings everywhere, and the only times you ever see anybody's face are basically the two main characters. Everyone else either has masks on. Then when they're running through the city again, they're running through this massive city in broad daylight, and they're the only two people there.
Nobody else.
I'm not sure I would exactly read into it to the point of like trying to convey some meaning, but it's a very interesting art style to me. Just kind of sitting here wondering, like, is this the character's perception that we're seeing, or is there some reason that the world is built this way that I guess my mind is kind of just trying to click through in the background as you're watching this thing unfold.
Yeah. One thing I noticed, and I don't know if this is necessarily indicative of the purpose of the episode, but kind of knowing inevitably where the episode was going with the main, I guess the woman who's being chased, killing her pursuer. There are flashes throughout of the pursuer basically like going from like a normal kind of like human form to like kind of like demon form,
Which she does in the initial fight too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also I noticed that in combination with that, there were signs that I believe said, like, it was either billboard or I think it was on the TVs maybe in the beginning that said, and then she went crazy or something like that. So I was wondering, I don't know if this is true or if this is necessarily even a valid interpretation, but I thought that maybe if you were to dig a little deeper, it might just be that this episode is maybe she was the original killer and now she's just trying to outrun her demons. I don't know. I feel like that's trying to very
It's really trying to
really reaching to find
something out of it.
Yeah, but I don't know.
This one this was
A divisive episode in our house.
in our house. So the first time I watched this, and the first time I watched this entire thing was
By yourself.
by myself, late at night with just like a terrible bout of insomnia. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm marathoning the whole thing. So I hated most of it. The second watch through that I did with Heather was like, oh, you know what? Actually, more hits than misses on this one. Still hated this episode.
Yeah.
See, I didn't hate this episode, which is
Yeah.
where it's divisive in our house, and I liked it for reasons that Kyle likes it. Is I really liked the background. I liked the world building of this. I also apparently have not watched half of the movies Harley's watched because this isn't an overused trope for me. I don't know this trope very well. So it felt very Memento-y, which I liked, but it was Memento-y with a sci-fi twist to me.
Yeah.
And also part of the reason why you didn't like it, which is because you were like, I just want to watch fucking Spider-Verse.
So yeah, I was waiting for Heather to get back from California so that we could watch Spider-Verse, and I'm
Yeah.
watching this with all the little like sound effect words and shit. I'm just like, I have literally seen that done better. I want to watch that fucking movie right now.
Which made this episode for me too, is I liked that about it. I liked the world. I liked that it was colorful and then not. And it was.
I mean, the aesthetics were great. Like that really can't. That can't
really
be
great.
argued. I think this is probably one of the more beautiful episodes.
I'm weird apparently about nudity. I don't care if somebody is nude, whether it makes or breaks. It doesn't make or break an episode for me. It doesn't make or break anything. I honestly liked that you felt her fear so real that she did not give two fucks about clothing and she was running for her goddamn life.
She also had so much fear in that moment that she went to go dance at a sex club instead of to the cops because she just witnessed a murder.
I'm sorry, she's a sex worker. You don't go to the cops.
That's fair.
I think she
She's
was
clearly
she was
a sex
searching
worker.
out her. She was searching for her handler, Vlad.
She
I
was.
believe like that was the rationale.
Yeah,
So,
she was looking for a handler. She's a sex worker. You don't go to the cops. That's like rule number, like that's not even a rule because it's just how so ingrained in them.
That's fair.
So
yeah, I mean, I think nudity. I mean, I have no problem with it. I think it could be great just as long as it at least not even serves a narrative purpose. It just makes sense within the narrative, and I think in this case it did.
It did.
Yeah, I would
It
argue.
did.
Yeah, this is one of the more well placed. I think.
Yeah.
Usually throughout the entire
Yeah,
series,
it just
at
makes
least
sense.
there's some kind of story based reason that it's
Yeah.
present.
It's not just a dude forgot to pull up his pants, so whang.
God
Yeah.
damn it.
I think
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
I think I would have been okay with it if like the dance scene hadn't gone on for so long, like because they get some
I can
real
agree with
close
that.
push-ups on
Yeah.
her, and I'm just like, can we get back to the?
that could have been. It could have been cut down, and
Yeah.
you know,
I guess she did have her dance.
Yeah, it was like a good minute and a half of
okay.
just.
it
on
was
her,
a
just
minute.
like-
and a
Yeah,
half.
that's
You know, if
true.
she had started and looked up sooner and seen him,
Yeah,
and
because
it
like they're just
ended
like
faster.
she's just like dancing for him, and he's just like sitting there watching her, and I was just like, can we go? Can we move on?
I mean, all I'm gonna
Next,
say is that
please.
like if someone's trying to like chase me down and kill me, like I'm definitely not gonna go back to the office and like do accounting for like an hour. Like, I'm just not. I'm not that dedicated.
But your life doesn't depend on your job. See, and
very
that's
true.
if she's a sex worker, like she was going to find her handler. Like that's not like that was her pimp. That was her handler. This is where she lives. This is what she does. Like her life depends on her doing her job. You don't double cross these people. You don't not work when they tell you to fucking work. Like
Also, a real quick, so a thing I noticed the second time watching it that I did not notice the first time. Fuck off, Harley.
All the time in the world to just watch it twice. Must be nice. This guy.
Was that the first shot, the first initial scene of her getting ready and putting on her makeup? The guy is in the bed.
Yeah.
I definitely did not notice that the first time. So watching it the second time, realizing like, oh, he's asleep in the bed. But yeah, that was like the only thing that I didn't notice it the first time. I noticed it the second time. So that's really all I
In my second watch through, I noticed that they very clearly show
Harley, you and I, buddy. You and I.
face
Goddamn stay-at-home dads.
at the very beginning. When he, I guess, murders her, they very clearly show her face.
Yeah.
And so if you were paying very close attention, which is hard to do the first time because you're taking
No,
it
I knew
all
it
in,
was her he killed.
But you immediately know from the very beginning the twist at the end.
Yeah.
And so then
Yeah.
it kind of brings this interesting, like, so you're not watching it for the twist, but there's still a twist and how that all kind of fits.
See, it was still a twist for me, even though I knew that was her face. But I was definitely like, what the fuck just happened? And I was like, so my immediate brain went to, oh, this is just what sex workers look like in this world. Is must be a
that-
company
like
of
clones or-
clones of sex workers, or this is the costume that they put on.
Oh,
and so
yes, I
I
didn't
was
think about
definitely
that.
like, did she just witness like a friend get murdered, which would explain being so freaked out. And then later on when she's just like, I witnessed a murder, and then she's like trying to find Vlad, and she never says, Carrie got killed. I was definitely like, the fuck is happening?
I hadn't even thought about that.
No, I
angle.
hadn't
That's
gone that
really
far.
cool,
Yeah.
actually.
That was so.
To be fair, I could have written a much better episode, clearly.
Wow.
The end. Close.
That was another thing for me watching it, was the fact that like partway through it was like, oh, okay. So when they get back to the place, she's gonna kill him instead. It was like,
yeah.
oh, okay. So I don't need to watch this anymore.
No.
Kind of was like my initial feeling about it.
Yeah, I definitely thought he was still going to kill her. I thought it was just going to be a loop that she was constantly stuck in. I thought he was just going to keep killing her.
I mean,
I did
I
not
feel like
realize
it's a
it was
loop
flipped.
that they're both
They're
stuck in.
both
Clearly,
caught
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Fucking got in.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Except so let's dive into that a little bit deeply. So she left the apartment first.
Yeah.
He was asleep in the bed. This time he wakes up in the apartment. He leaves the apartment. Nobody's in the apartment anymore. Loop closed, right?
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's true.
Was she in the bed?
Yeah.
Why would she be in the bed? She was getting ready for work and left. So that's the only thing that's all I'll say about that.
Well, my head hurts.
My last point was just going to be that they do a thing that bugs me in animation where they have the characters only like half talking, especially the guy when he's like chasing after. He's like, oh, no.
He screams "wait" a good couple times.
Yeah, but
Wait!
like
It was
the
Bennett
closer they
screaming,
get, the quieter he talks. Like when he's right behind, he's like,
Yeah, no, I feel like
was like-
the mouth movements
Yeah.
weren't very
I was just
accurate,
like-
which is
Also,
yeah.
I would not chase her. No. fuck, she just watched me kill somebody and I recognize her as the person I just fucking killed. Nope, I'm fuck out of Dodge, man.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I'm going back to sleep. I'm gonna try this shit again tomorrow.
That was the other thing. Like, I'm not sure. Like, was he? Like, his motivations to me were unclear. Like, was he trying to find her and kill her? Because it seemed like he was actually trying to talk to her.
He was. Again, just because he recognized her as the woman he just fucking killed. So
Yeah,
it's
so-
like, well,
If he had used some words at the end instead of just, oh God, no way.
Let's just talk. Oh shit, you have a gun.
Also,
let's not talk it out anymore. I'm gonna go for the gun.
I just found this person I've been chasing across the city in my fucking apartment. My words would not be, oh, hey, oh, you're here. Like, I would not be calm.
Yeah.
I'd be like, the fuck did you get in here? I'm leaving.
Although at the same time, if we're perhaps coming in the middle of the loop as opposed to the beginning of the loop, perhaps he was initially standing, and so this has gone on many times.
Yeah.
So then that throws a whole new, like, he's just trying to catch her to tell her, hey, we're in this weird situation, but then she kills him, and then we go back to the...
So
that could be the reason for the chase. As opposed to
way too calm. Like, even if that's his motivation for changing her, when he finds her in his apartment, like,
it just goes from wait, we need to talk to just oh hey.
It's like
So, hey,
it's almost like he was just too exhausted. If he is in the middle of the loop, if he is realizing it, because I've seen this kid show. Thank you very much, Troll Hunters. At this point of the conversation, he might just be exhausted from living the same thing over and over again, and he might just be giving up. He might just be like, I know what happens next. Just fucking kill me. Let's get this over with. I'll get my turn.
One
here.
of us is getting shot in the
I'll
next
get
2 minutes.
I'll get my turn over here in a minute, and then we'll try this again. You know, but that's such a weird. That would be such a weird explanation because they make it seem like we're in the beginning of this loop, not the middle.
This episode to me had the most, like, I'm sure I'll probably say this a couple times throughout this podcast, but it had like one of the most like Twilight Zone-y vibes to it,
Yeah.
which it literally just
Yeah.
gives you like kind of a trippy situation. Doesn't give you really any of the context, like any of the.
And you don't get a full fleshed out story. And I
Yeah.
stare hard at Jonathan
Yeah.
because this is why he dislikes some of these episodes. I don't
think is fine.
mind.
Which is
It's a writing tool. Is to not give a full fleshed out
I
story.
mean, it's also a really easy way to cut corners.
It is.
But I mean,
But when you're
this is
making
why
it-
we have so much to talk about.
You're making an 8-minute episode. You're allowed to cut corners. Like, you don't have to have a beginning, middle, and end full fleshed out story.
My biggest pet peeve with this episode was the occasional camera lens fog.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That just made me feel icky.
Right.
You felt moist, you would say.
A little moist, you might say.
All right, so I think this is a good place to take a quick break. We will be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Josh again. I would just like to take this moment to do a quick ad break. We have a very special sponsor today. They're new. I haven't done a ton of research into them, but they've been gracious enough to give us money for this episode. So without further ado, here is the ad for the Oberon Corporation.
Synergy, dependability, affordability. These are just some of the words associated with the Oberon Corporation. The Oberon Corporation has dedicated itself to creating the highest quality goods at the absolute bare minimum cost. We here at the Oberon Corporation understand that a business isn't just a loose collection of individuals. It's a family. Founded in 1973 by my father, Eldwin Oberon, we've spent the last 40 years building your trust. Built on a former cotton plantation in North Carolina, Oberon brought in religious leaders of all denominations to cleanse the land. At Oberon, we take our responsibility seriously. Whether making food, weapons, or industrial-grade cleansers, we try really hard to make sure those things never get mixed up. And we're usually successful. We only use the finest materials and the most qualified employees. That's why when you hear Oberon, you hear quality. In the new century, we understand there are new challenges that we must face together. Conservation is our highest priority. If you're looking for the next step in your life, Oberon is where you want to be. As I speak, Oberon is preparing for the next 100 years of operation and what that means for the world. Join us, won't you? At the Oberon Corporation, we understand that people are our greatest resource. That's why we use the entire employee. Stem to stern, soup to nuts. Nothing goes to waste at Oberon. No part of the employee is wasted. The Oberon Corporation. What have you got to lose?
All right, everybody. We are back from our little break there, talking about Love, Death, and Robots.
Rubies.
Your Netflix original series. So going through the chronological episode order, the next episode is Suits.
Oh, bless.
I love Suits.
So to Heather's point earlier, this one to me did actually feel like a video game cutscene, but one that I might actually be interested in playing.
Oh, really?
100%. I would play this
I
game.
would play this game.
It'd be like
I don't
actually
play
like-
video
this is
games,
like-
and I'm playing this game.
Like Gears of War meets Farmville?
I imagine it'd be like
But it looks like
Stardew Valley
Fortnite.
and Mech Warrior.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
be like a tower defense game where you have to like
Yeah.
repair the shields and repair all your turrets and
Turts.
This is the one where I was like, I need a full length movie.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, this is
Like,
the one that hooked me for sure.
Where did the bugs come from?
Yep.
Why are they on this planet? Holy God, I love this. Like, I was about this.
so. And I had mentioned earlier that love was underrepresented in this series, and I think this is actually probably the only episode where that actually comes into play because you have the couples that it's not about, you know.
I would not say it's the only episode that has love in it, but I would say that it is the prevalent theme.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
and robots. Like there's, you know, but this is the one that hits all three categories. This is where I feel like the title of the anthology being Love, Death, and Robots was 100% hit on all.
Yeah, it's the only one where they bring in the love without big melon titties also. So
Bags of sand.
I loved this episode.
This episode's so good.
Like I said, I want a full freaking length film
I
about
think
this
that's
episode.
what made it so good is that I think honestly it was one of the few that really was like a 3-act
Yeah.
episode. I mean, it had like it had an introduction, basically laid out like the
Here's our
farm,
world.
the world, and
Yeah.
all the people and their interactions. You have your problem. The DB, which is actually really funny. That I could the aliens or whatever they were called DB. I was trying to figure out like why the hell they go with that. The only thing I could think of is that they didn't have eyes, and maybe they like I don't know, like got around, like they had like a
I think
location.
they wanted to call them that because they're dead fucking bugs.
True.
Dead bugs.
True. But dB is also, it's the symbol for
Decibel.
Decibel, yeah. So
Oh,
I
that
was
makes
trying to
sense.
like dig deep, like what the fuck would that mean? But I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I loved it, but I just could not handle the whole like 15 frames a second thing every once in a while. It would just
Yeah.
jump out and punch me in the face, and I just like,
As a Nintendo only console gamer, I'm pretty used to it.
I could maybe I was tired when I watched this, but I didn't notice that.
I 100% noticed it. I was like, oh, Spider-Verse again.
Yeah.
But
Really want to watch that.
Jonathan really wanted to watch Spider-Verse.
Call back to Spider-Verse or anything, but like that same idea of like the frames per second being that jumpy kind of thing.
it was just so annoying because I loved everything about it, and then there was just that. It's like,
Yeah.
why do we have this? I don't know.
Yeah,
Strange.
This episode has one of the it's one of the most solid episodes in here because
I would say it's honestly my favorite.
Yeah.
Out of all of the episodes, I would probably say this is my favorite. I have other ones I like a lot.
I'd say
But
it was
this was my
it was up-
favorite.
It was up there. I wouldn't. I have a very specific
It's one I
favorite
could
that I
keep
will
going back to over
talk
and
a
over
lot
and
about.
over.
But
yeah. I like that some of these like the short film as a medium, like you can run into problems where you don't do enough world building,
Yeah.
or you don't give the characters enough room to breathe for them to like really feel fleshed out and like really like I give a shit about any of these characters. and that I'm going to care about the outcome about anything that happens in here. This one does all of that so well.
For sure.
They know that they have only the first impression with all of these characters, and they need to nail it. And I really feel like they do.
They do.
It's basically everything that the next episode doesn't do is what you're telling me.
Yes. 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 And so, like, look, this was just one of the most like solid things that, yeah, like by the time, like it's not super far into it or anything, but like, you know, somebody is going to die in that battle.
God! If the fact that not all three of them died was okay. It was a shocker to me because I definitely was like, they're gearing up for all of them to die.
All of them are going to die. They're going to sacrifice, and everybody else is going to get out.
And that was like, okay, I'm ready for this. Like emotionally, I'm going to cry, and I am ready for this.
Which is part of what's really impressive about the episode is they made you to the point where you care that much in all of 3 minutes of setup or whatever it was.
Yeah. Like that is good, just storytelling, filmmaking. Like that's good. So
I don't know. I hate to use the term, but there was definitely something very Whedon-esque about this episode for me. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah, no.
I mean, people love Joss Whedon's shit
use
for
that.
a reason.
I use that absolutely as a term of endearment, but that's like I had to check the IMDb. Like I was like, was this him? Because it just seemed like just all the witty banter.
Yeah.
That was the other thing is that this had some of my favorite lines of dialogue. Yeah. Like it did.
They actually felt like people.
Yeah.
It did.
It felt
the
very
jokes
real.
were subtle and funny. You know what I mean? Like I dug on it. Sure. I literally had a line of dialogue that I was like, oh, this is my favorite. I was going to say that. And now I can't remember.
No.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish it had done was maybe end like a second faster.
Yeah.
Like if it had just pulled away, cut to black. Like when it pulled all the way out and you see it's on the planet, I'm just like, without a follow-up, it didn't do much for me.
What I liked about it is because I'm like, there's more to this. I'm like, it gave me questions. And this is something you really, Jonathan, didn't like about some of these is that they left you, they didn't give you the full story. And I like wanting more. Yeah. I like that because it makes me mad. And that makes me want the next thing usually. Yeah. And that's such a weird thing to think, but it just makes me want more. Like it's a weird thing to be mad and have that be my driving force. But usually the things that I get the most mad at, I tend to watch over and over and over again because I am a world builder in my own head. I read books that have endings that make me sob and die and want to die with these characters, but I want more of that. And so that's what I really liked is it gave me more questions than it gave me answers towards the end. I also remember my favorite piece of dialogue, and it was, quit your job and go be a farmer, they said. Didn't tell you about the fucking bugs. And I was like, yes, it's how every life situation is. They don't give you the nice little backsplash of, you're going to hate this. Yeah.
I just really enjoyed that they took what is arguably one of the more farther out there, like initial pitches. You know, what if we gave farmers killer mechs and turned it into one of the best episodes, I would argue, in the series. I mean, there's one or two more weird concepts we'll get to, but I think this is one of the most out there, like, dude, wouldn't it be awesome if, and it's like a really well developed story with very clear, you know, story writing talent and all of the other things we already discussed. So
I want to hunt down who's responsible for this episode and find more of what they've done, because if they haven't done that much, they're rising stars in my eyes. They're going to do great things. And if they have already done stuff, I need to go find it because it's probably fucking
the
amazing.
VAs, the screen actors.
Yeah, like why have I not watched more of these people things? Because it's great. It's good stuff. Yeah. Unlike the next episode.
Segue.
Right. So on that note, probably one of the more bizarre,
awful
as well. Like, so the next episode is Sucker of Souls.
It sucked, all right.
It sucks.
Heyo.
Where I loved the dialogue of Suits. Like I liked the subtle humor. It's a cheesy line about being a farmer. That's a cheesy line, and it still landed so well. the fucking dialogue of
I
bad.
want to preface right now. I want to be the one to say the worst line of dialogue in
Go.
this entire thing.
It's so bad.
Hit us
Do
with
it.
Yes.
Okay, so I was okay with this episode. It was not good. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then it comes to the scene where they're talking about the cat and how when he eats the cat, it like burned his flesh. Oh, I wouldn't be the first guy to get in a little trouble for eating some pussy. No.
Done.
Fucking done.
No. It said a lot about where I was with this series that I wasn't immediately like, change the fucking episode.
It kind of breaks you down a little bit.
Fucking done. I liked the idea.
Yeah.
I am about the idea of an archaeologist going and trying to find Dracula. I am about the idea.
I can give you that.
I am about the idea.
That's about as far as
I like the fact that cats, he can't be around. He doesn't like cats. I'm cool with that. Nothing else is fine. Everything else about this is shit. I'm done talking about this fucking awful episode.
The animation style, was terrible.
Yes.
It reminded me of some cartoons in my past. I'm not sure exactly what.
I couldn't land. Like, what does this remind me of?
Ed, and Eddie.
Or maybe something that would have been on like
Ed and Eddie, the like
I feel like some kind of Toonami something.
or like
shitty.
something that would have been on like Newgrounds.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. It was almost
something
like it was like if somebody just took the storyboards for Avatar: The Last Airbender and then went no further than that. Didn't clean it up at all. Just was like, this is just what the show looks like now.
Yeah.
Well, I think this episode turns when on the Dracula's penis when it comes, like when you can see that.
Yeah,
that's like where the
This is
episode
the
just like
beginning
drops
of the
off
old
the table.
man wang episodes, and I'm over it.
Well, so my weird thing is I feel like obviously in this, like when Dracula starts feeding on people, he turns more and more monstrous and becomes. Was I the only one who's getting like Cloverfield vibes from like
A little bit.
I was getting I
So
was
it's-
getting No Face vibes. Like he started to lose shape in his body.
from
Spirited Away. I was
yeah.
getting No Face vibes. Like he just kept getting less defined. And
Well, the face was Cloverfield monster looking.
I don't know.
But I mean, just like it struck me that I was like, well, now I know what Cloverfield's penis looks like.
But like the 13-year-olds trying to write tough guy dialogue.
Yeah.
Just, like
Dialogue's just so bad.
when they're like running away and the guy like turns and I can't remember what the line is, but he starts like shooting his gun and saying, trying to be a tough guy. And it's like, I just started laughing at him.
Yeah.
It's so
I was
bad.
like, this is like embarrassing. Like
I don't have
laughing
to
in
be
embarrassment.
fast. I just have to be faster than you mentality of running away.
Yeah, that only works with
Like,
bears.
then okay, whatever.
Here's the weapons we brought.
all sorts of internal inconsistencies with like they're running from this unstoppable demon thing and then they close the doors and put a piece of wood in front
And
like,
it blocks
we're
him.
good, we're set, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the way up to I don't give a crap about these characters in the first place, and then we get to the end and they all die anyway. It's like, oh well, it's a good thing I did.
Yeah,
because
the whole,
No sequel, great.
Nobody asks him where the
Why?
fucking tunnel goes. You just smashed into a tomb of tunnels that opened up Dracula. You didn't think that maybe smashing open another tomb of tunnels would leave you to more Draculas, you dumbass fucks.
I would argue it would be hard to do worse with the starting concept than this episode did.
No, they took what I feel like they took a good,
An interesting concept.
concept and did fuck all with it. They were basically like, I forgot to write a script. Oops. Give it to the 7-year-old.
Yeah.
The 7-year-old who just discovered that, dude, did you know that like cats are like, you can call them like pussy cats?
Also, did you know you can say fuck every other word?
Oh my god,
That was the thing that
Yeah.
bugged me. Like every other word was fuck this fucking fuck. I'm just like, oh my god, people.
And I curse.
Xbox Live.
Yeah, I curse like a goddamn. I curse like a goddamn sailor, and I was just like, this is so.
Yeah, like
it's forced and it's like
Yeah.
there's
When
no
I tell
flow
a
to
story
it.
and there's fucks every other word, it's because I'm exclamating my point, and it just flows. It goes well.
Like one of my favorite movies is The Big Lebowski, and that's got like over 200 in there.
110 fucks in it.
Yeah, like that doesn't faze me.
It does well with it.
Yeah.
It's because they do something with it. They're using it.
It's in a story. It's not the point of the thing. Is if we have a character say "fuck" like 30 times.
Yeah, it's not just like
so cool.
filler words.
Yeah.
And then coming back to the fucking stupid pussy thing.
That's really
pussy
when
thing.
Jonathan lost all.
Insert It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia blackout screen for
fair.
this episode.
So like the idea. So just based off of the doctor says that it literally hurts him to do it. And then his takeaway from that is wouldn't be the first time a guy got in trouble. Like that is not a 1-to-1 comparison. Like that's not at all the same thing. You just really wanted to make that fucking stupid joke.
Yeah, the 8-year-old got to say pussy for the first time. He was gonna do it.
And then later, when they all meet up, and instead of being like any actual person would be like, oh yeah, it turns out cats protect us. He's like, we got saved by a pussy here, and then having the one female character being like, am I right? Like, can we just not do that, please?
I would just like to say before we get too far along, just in regards to the 7-8-year-old comments, as far as the writing's concerned, there is something called Axe Cop.
Axe Cop is great.
So
that's the thing.
Great.
All I'm saying is that this is an insult to 7-8-year-olds because they can actually write some good ass shit.
You're right.
Axe
this
Cop
is 12
is
and
an
13-year-olds.
exception.
That's true.
Axe Cop's also the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
This is 12 and 13-year-olds who their one friend who's slightly older than them said like all of the swear words.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh my God, you can do that and
the
not get in
12-year-olds
trouble.
who've been homeschooled by their very Christian
You know what?
mom.
Don't fucking at me right now.
It's the older friend who's like, I put my penis on a vagina. We totally had sex.
We totally did the sex.
Yeah. So.
So anyway, I'm pretty sure we all fucking hated this episode.
I think that's my takeaway. Yeah.
Moving on.
Next.
Moving on. An episode that's kind of light on substance. When the yogurt took over.
I like that it was light on substance.
Well,
I think I'm going to check out of this one just because I had nothing this episode.
The only thing I have is that it's always a treat to have Maurice LaMarche.
Yes,
that is fair.
Hear his voice for 7.5 minutes, and that's the only thing.
That's the insane part to me is that this is a 7.5 minute long episode that feels like 3.
Nothing.
It feels like nothing.
Yeah.
Like it felt so fast that I definitely was like, was that a 3-minute episode? I didn't think they were making them that short. Okay,
just
next. Shows
the power of a good VA. I mean, I'd listen to him literally reading through a phone book, which I mean wouldn't be that far away from the content of this episode, but still very interesting though.
I liked the idea.
Yeah.
I loved the voice acting. I thought it was great. I felt like it didn't have enough content. It just didn't have enough content.
I feel like this was one of the only episodes where I really felt like, oh, I wish they would have actually had like 5 more minutes to tell the most interesting part of the story. That is what happened after they left.
What happened next? I felt like this was the beginning of invention of lying. Like, here is the history of how we got to this moment, and now I need the rest of this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like, here is.
Are you referring to the Ricky Gervais vehicle?
Yes, I am. Yeah. The invention of lying.
Or Ricky Gervais for people who can actually fucking pronounce his name.
Thank you, Canada.
Ricky Gervais?
Ricky Gervais.
You added a weird extra R at the end of Gervais.
I'm pretty sure I added an A, so you can go fuck yourself because I'm Canadian.
Anyways, I feel like this is the intro to a movie. That's why I felt like it's probably why you felt like you nothinged it, because it wasn't. There needed to be more.
It left out the most interesting part.
It did, and I felt like it was an intro.
Yeah.
Now where's the rest of my shit?
Exactly.
I do like the kind of it looked like it didn't look great as a fake stop motion, but it looked like they're kind of going for that. They just need another pass of a little bit of.
I think the art style was an interesting sort of spice to throw into the dish that is, this whole series. It was a nice kind of just comparison point to all the other different sort of artistic styles.
For sure.
Just kind of I don't know, take in and kind of say, well, each episode is kind of has its own sort of take on animation. Because you say animation is like, oh, you know, it's hand drawn or I don't know. But having all these different styles trying to convey this sort of similar theme, I thought is a lot of fun. And this one is one that really adds to that.
It does, yeah. I also don't feel like I'm allowed to say much about this episode because I don't feel like I watched it.
Really?
I feel like this is the one where I need to go back and watch over and over and over again because I felt like it went so fast. Again, I felt like it went so fast. I don't remember the art style all that well. I remember the voice acting. I remember the theme.
I think I was just
like
caught
I just don't
up in it,
feel
really.
like I remember details because I don't want to say I nothing it, but I'm not far from that.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I feel like my main takeaway is, I mean, if we're going to talk about themes, was just it was just straight allegorical towards like technology, like what happens when everything that we've built basically goes away inevitably. Like look at you, sun flares. So I don't know. I think that was really my only kind of the only way I was like kind of intellectually stimulated by this.
I think you could also approach it as like, though, if, you know, when we get to the point where our technology is better than us and it makes our lives perfect, is that a good or bad thing?
For sure.
It has a lot of the, like, I would argue it kind of does have an ending because they launch. It's like, oh my gosh, are they leaving us behind? We have this utopia, but now they're leaving. Uh-oh. And then it just like, you know, lights cut out and that's it.
Again, it feels like
shit.
it feels like they're leaving out the best part of what happens next.
Yeah.
I've read this story. I've read how we get to this point. Now what happens? Nobody does the what happens once they tell you what happens 100 years after your utopia has fallen apart, but what happens right after?
All I'm going to say is
The
that
United States gets broken up into 13 districts. One of them gets nuked.
Yeah, I feel like
We don't talk about District 13.
this episode is much better thinking of it as a prequel to 3 Robots. That's all I'll say.
That's fair.
Right?
Okay.
I do like the image of the yogurt cups shooting off into space.
I do. That's the one part I like. I can solidly remember in my brain because I was just like, oh, they fucking left them.
So much fiber. So much fiber.
So many probiotics.
There it is.
So I think the consensus is an episode that we don't like or hate. It just kind of
It was there.
there.
I would
there.
say I like
I would
it.
say
I
it's
enjoyed it.
towards the higher end, like, of episodes for me, just because it was this kind of record scratch almost. Like, oh, wait, what? For
sure.
But yeah, not near the top.
It's hard to have a strong opinion about
So
it.
I watched the first 8 episodes in one solid chunk, and I feel like the next 2 episodes just erased this one from my brain.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I feel like they just erased it from my brain because I went from I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I like this one, I don't like this. Now I don't remember this next one because the next 2 happen, and it's like I was on this roll of I don't know how I'm gonna feel after watching all of this.
Gets a little overshadowed.
Yeah, it got overshadowed to me for sure. So.
All right. So kind of going back to what you were saying about you've seen this story before. The next episode is Beyond the Aquila Rift.
Which I can tell right now, Heather and I are going to fucking fight you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
This is
but
where the line is, and if you're on that side of the table, be on that fucking side of the table. If you're on this side, get on this fucking side.
I mean, I'm sure you're about to like. I mean, the premise is interesting. We have seen it before, and it's basically like what makes for a good twist is padded out with a very gratuitous sex scene that basically looks like 90% of my internet search history. So
you can't even be mad.
I've been there. There. I've seen it done better.
So here's the problem with your
Throw my laptop in the
argument
bathtub
is
if I die.
what movies? Because
Johnny.
I don't know the movies where we've seen this story, and maybe that's again from my own lack of watching these sci-fi movies. I don't know this story. I don't know these movies.
I think if you have never seen sci-fi before, then this is going to be fine. So
It's not that I've not seen sci-fi. I've watched sci-fi, but like I just don't feel like I've seen this love story, because that's what this ultimately boils down to, is a love story. Not I'm gonna marry you, you're the best thing that's ever happened in my life, but you know, a mother taking care of babies love story to me.
I
think
wouldn't equate
actually
that to-
no.
Yeah,
but
I know.
this is interesting because honestly, I think this was like what I've read and what I've seen about this episode. Like, there's a lot of different interpretations as to exactly what's happening.
Yes.
It sounds like that. So there's that line. I mean, okay, we are giving away spoilers.
Yeah. Full spoilers.
So the big twist basically is that, we have this captain, his ship goes off course. He ends up at this base that we think is a base. He's greeted by a past lover. They 3D bang for a very long time. And then
Not even mad. I'm just going to throw that on the table right now.
And then
I'm
it-
not mad
not even
either.
mad.
Not
And it
even
turns
mad.
out that she's like the least sexy monster girl again ever in my search history.
Oh, this is, by the way, the least sexy monster girl. Monster girl is the wrong word. Spider.
Yeah, she's a
fucking
spider.
space spider.
fucking space
Because
spider.
I looked at this as she comes out, and I looked at it. I immediately looked to Jonathan, who's the biggest arachnophobe I've ever met in my life,
that's
and was
true.
like, "How are you okay right now?"
Yeah.
Because it was a big fucking spider, big fucking space spider.
But I mean, now that we've gotten kind of summary of the way, she says the sexy space spider basically says like, I love everyone that's come here.
I take care of everybody
Yeah.
who comes here. And that's literally her big part of her actual character we meet. We don't meet her real personality, her real character. She's putting on a persona and mentally, and probably just part of her mentally putting on this persona for him. Yeah. The real part of her is she's taking care of these people.
but she's
They
also
wander-
eating them.
I do
wouldn't say she's
know
eating
So so my interpretation is that both of his crew members
Mm-hmm.
made it. Like they made the journey, and we get a shot when he comes to, when he has
of
like
them completely emancipated like he is. They start.
Emaciated.
Thank you. No, they emancipated. Let's go.
emancipated. They are out of there. Unfortunately,
emaciated.
not.
They're
Yeah.
emaciated like he is. Like he is starving to death right now. She has nothing for them to survive on. Their ship crashed. Their pods broke.
Yeah.
Like they are dying from starvation. They are dying from dehydration.
This is the divide, though. I think this is the divide that I keep seeing that makes people, that really kind of informs their interpretation of the episode. See, when I first watched it, I thought that she was literally just going through and just feeding off these people and like giving them like a happy kind
Death.
of
Like the Matrix, where you're just feeding off of them while you're giving them this illusion.
Exactly. Yeah. She was. Yeah.
So as far as seeing this story before, for me who watches a lot of Star Trek, like there's like 2 or 3 episodes in every series.
That's fair.
Where they do
That's
this
true, yeah.
episode.
I'm literally like, as you said that, I was like, oh no, I can remember the next gen
But-
storyline.
so,
of
like,
this.
For me, I was waiting for the turn where they like tell you like what the point is.
Yeah.
But this never really gets to that point. And like, I think one of the things that muddies it up is that when he like goes back to the ship and his other crew member is awake.
Yeah.
And so like when the twist happens, I was like, so was that his subconscious? Are they having is actually her? And they're having a.
She was, because I feel like they're all having their own different hallucinations, for lack of a better term, right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Their own dreamlands of what's happening to them. And she brings him out of it because he insists on being brought out of it. So what if that was the moment that his crewmate had insisted on being brought out of it, and seeing who she is and her freaking the fuck out like he did, and her putting her back to sleep and being like, no, never mind.
Yeah, but that's the only thing like muddies up any type of like theme is like we are wondering like, well, when you start trying to figure out the logistics of it, that's when I get like, well, now I'm thinking about that instead of any kind of emotional arc. It also was bugging me that this guy wasn't, can't remember his name, Thorin Oakenshield from The Hobbit.
Yeah, because it seemed like that's who they definitely were basing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which the actor that actually did the voice does look like the
Looks exactly
character
like
model.
him.
So I was like,
All of the character models are literally just the person.
yeah,
Which, to that point,
Richard Armitage.
yeah, Richard Armitage.
this is one of the best looking photorealistic things I have ever seen.
I went into this anthology being told that one of these is live action, and so I like each time I found better and better animation. I kept trying to be like, is this the one that's actually live action? Is this the one? And then when I finally see the live action one, I'm like, oh well, duh. How did I not figure this out? I thought it was done really well. Jonathan made a good point that it's not something I look for, but now that I think about it and I think back, the eye tracking.
Yeah.
They very
Did a real good job with that.
The weird thing is that what kept throwing me out into the uncanny valley was for some reason the teeth. Like the main dude's teeth looked really fucking weird and wooden, and it kept freaking me out, and I couldn't fixate on them, and I literally had to go scroll through pictures of Dave Grohl smiling for like a half an hour after watching this because like I just need perfection. The weird thing about the graphics or the aesthetics was that I don't know if they did this on purpose, but the one thing that like I didn't go into this thinking about a twist or like really expecting the twist, so I was caught off guard. But the only thing that got me wondering was that I feel like Greta, that character, her rendering seemed so much more photorealistic than any of the other like all the other characters looked like they could have been pulled out of like a Final Fantasy, Spirits of the Within, whatever that movie was. But her like her freckles and like her wrinkles and everything about her face just seemed so real that it actually made me wonder. It's like, this bitch ain't actually real, is she?
Well, and so
it was weird. Like I've never had like the actual representation, like
physical,
graphic.
like like where you look at a character and you go,
something's weird. Like,
and I got that too because from the beginning, it's not that I was looking for a twist. I was definitely like in my brain, I'm going, that's not Greta.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Greta. I knew it wasn't her. Yeah. Who it was and who it actually was going to be, I was waiting to find out. Yeah. So I didn't think there was going to be a twist so much as it was just part of the story. When she turned out to be a fucking Spider-Woman, I was not expecting that.
She just wants somebody to love her for her sexy spider body.
I don't think that's what this was about. And that's what really, like, I like that you brought it up, it's a torn thing, is I don't think it's about her wanting somebody to love her for a sexy spider body.
I don't think it is either.
I think, like I said, I think that the amount of brain power she was using on having him focus on this, because if when you look around, we went back and looked and rewound. There are more of them. There are more little spiders crawling around. I think that she was trying to give them a merciful death, as in a motherly way, because she's the biggest fucking spider we saw.
Yeah.
And I bet that those were her little babies, and she's just taking care of all the babies.
So this might be a little bit left field, but my theory surrounding sort of this episode and this world they've built is, well, if you roll it back, so we start off in the ship and they're approaching this gate, right? Mm-hmm. And they plot this course and they're talking to somebody, some sort of robotic voice, something about, hey, Archangel, and it responds, yes, your course is plotted, such and such, in this kind of robotic whatever voice. Then they use this obviously much more advanced technology than their ship to jump somewhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what I kind of read into this episode is that there's something in this technology that they don't understand, that every once in a while plucks a ship out and basically sacrifices to some sort of alien something way out there who, I mean, maybe they're so advanced, this is actually the race that like constructed this, and this sort of sacrificial whatever keeps these aliens going. Or to me, I was kind of with what you were saying about the Star Trek-y kind of, I've seen this before, but when I really went back and kind of, why do I like this episode? I feel like there's some different ways you could read into how they ended up here and why this is happening.
That's what makes this one of the best episodes for me, is that there's the fact that there's 5 of us sitting at a table right now, and I think there's 5 different points of view, that we're having this lengthy of a discussion over an 20 minutes. So this is one of the longer ones too. It was it's a 20-minute little mini movie, and we're gonna have this long of a discussion over it. That's what I like about this, is that there are other ones where, this is exactly what happened. This is everybody's point of view of what happened, because this is what happened. Whereas this one there's, like Kyle said, there's so many different interpretations. Why do you go back to this? It's because you can take it different ways.
The time limit kind of forces a necessary ambiguity, just because they don't have the time to go in, which I really like, which is what I think I always loved so much
about.
I think
this one could have cut down to 8 minutes and it still would have had this idea. They could have cut a lot of what Josh doesn't like out of it, is the sex scene, which, don't at me right now, because that's what I like about this episode a little bit.
Fucking hot, bro.
I am kind of like, you should never like cartoon titties more than you like real titties, but at the same time,
bags of sand.
It was. I dug it. I really dug it.
This is the only episode I've watched more than once.
For a weird, just the last 2 minutes though.
Yeah, just to like go over the twist again. There's also a lot of like strangely like religious symbol. Like there's like a
Like
little
the
statues
Virgin
of
Mary and her
Virgin Mary.
jinkos.
Yeah, which is what she actually uses
she's
to
hit
cut
the
to cut the.
So there's something going on there.
Yeah,
that,
and I think is the computer that they're speaking. Is its name actually Archangel?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Fuck. See?
So there's this
some
spinning
shit.
kind of station thing as they approach, and it has this deep robotic voice.
So watching it the second time, the line of dialogue that I heard that I didn't hear the first time was that Susie found them a shortcut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like my only thing, like I didn't even like
Fuck you
catch
and
up
your
on,
shortcut, Susie.
Yeah.
But she was
Classic
insistent
Susie.
she wasn't
Which
wrong.
he said at the end too. We get to the end and he's like, "Fucking thanks, Susie." It's like, whoa,
Whoa.
anger.
Hostility. Who's Susie?
She was the chick.
Oh yeah.
The only
Also, I'm really sad that the other guy didn't get
black guy doesn't get any lines.
anything. And I was like,
Classic.
well, I'm kind of interested in his point on anything. I also kind of
Died in the
I
crash.
feel like if this had continued on, I would have wanted to see what Susie had seen. I would have wanted to see what the other guy
From their point
if
of
this
view,
was
if they
if this
woke
was
up
a
to-
full feature length movie, I want to see what everybody's
I think you
going
could
through.
create an interesting series just having one episode following all sorts of different perspectives around this incident.
Yes.
So people looking for it, the 3 people on the ship, you could have basically an entire season series going through the same time occurrence just over and over and over through different points of view and have a very interesting.
Agreed.
And so you would there would be one like key crossover scene where when Tom is awake and they're getting Susie out of the tank, he sees Greta. Him and Greta are talking to Susie. When Susie comes out of the tank, she's being awoken by somebody else, and Tom and that person, who Tom for some reason is calling Greta, are talking to her and trying to calm her down.
yeah.
And she's like,
Can't you
that's
see
not
her?
Greta.
Actually look at her.
Yeah. And then the guy in the pod is just like.
Like whatever that guy. Can get out of here, probably Jeff. I don't know.
Right? In the Bantha
His
tank.
name was probably definitely not Jeff.
But yeah, like that is something. So getting to see it from a different perspective would have been really interesting to see, like, what was she seeing, because she clearly was not seeing Greta, because she had, to our knowledge, she never met Greta. So this being didn't know to project Greta onto her as well.
But that's if that was actually her, not just like his subconscious,
his mind
which we're
projection
not.
of.
Which we don't know.
We don't know.
Wait, that's
Which is
interesting
great.
though. Yeah, that is an interesting wrinkle, because it's like if they had a shared experience, then
Well, and
having
why?
the same being.
Why did our spider lady have them have a shared experience, knowing that they would be harder for her to project?
But that's the thing too, is that I guess that would have meant that his experience was overriding hers. He would have seen Greta as Greta, but she would have seen Spider Lady as something else. So yeah, I feel like you could tear this one.
This one could. I think that this is why it makes it one of the better episodes.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, because there's just
ambiguity.
there's so much about it.
I didn't really like the line reading that when she was the spider creature, she sounds a little like self-sad, or like, I don't know, like she doesn't have like a maternal tone. It's more like,
Oh, we're gonna go through this again.
We're just like,
almost.
oh, don't you like me in this form, Tom?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that doesn't give me like a feeling that
That doesn't track with everything that just happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like because she's trying to talk him out of like seeing her like that, because he figures it out. You're not actually Greta. I need to see what's going on, and she's like, no, you're not ready. You can't handle this. No. And I think it's almost
It's
her.
almost a, are you happy now?
It's a, oh, are you happy now?
But then
It's
like,
I've had this argument over and over and over again. You're not gonna like this. Fucking fine. Here it is. I'm sorry. I have a 3-year-old. I do this with him. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
what I mean, like, no, you
perception
don't want
warping
this.
spider ladies
No, you
get
won't.
frustrated too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
they
no,
really do.
you don't.
Sometimes you just want to get it in. I don't know.
No, you don't want this. No, you don't want this. No, you don't want it. Fine. Fuck, you can have it. Oh, yeah, right? I told you you didn't like fucking white chocolate. I know you, kid. You know what I mean? Take the dark chocolate 'cause that's what you want. God damn it.
So main takeaway from this episode:
Fuck white
her
chocolate, am I
sexy
right?
spider body is white chocolate,
Truly.
which is terrible because I love white chocolate and I hate sexy spider bodies.
R.I.P. white
He
chocolate
just
for John.
hates spider bodies. There's probably spiders in your chocolate.
Don't do that to me right now. So anyway,
I
anyway,
think it's nougat, but it's not.
So coming up now, coming in hot. One of my favorite episodes, probably top 3 for me. And my favorite.
Oh yeah, Kyle.
Hell yeah!
This is top 3 for me.
I don't know
as
which
well.
one's coming up next, and I'm surprised. I'm gonna be surprised.
It's
Good
Good
Hunting.
Hunting.
Good Hunting is up
Oh,
next.
it was good. It wasn't like my favorite, but I would say it was like, I mean,
Top 3 for me.
narratively, I would say probably the best. But because it's actually based on something that already exists, it's based on a book.
By Ken Liu.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
Like,
really?
It won a bunch of shit. Like,
I need that book, please.
yeah, no, supposedly it's really good. I haven't. Obviously.
I also know why you like this, and you're gonna laugh at me because you've read this comic. Because you know this story. Because you know the story. It follows very along the lines of Lady Mechanica, which
Yeah.
you already really like. It
Yeah.
is something that you already like, which is why you continue to like it.
I was gonna say, is it because he's a secret furry and there's a lot.
Damn right. Give me them puppy
Secrets out.
titties.
So like,
What is your persona or fursona?
My fursona, you son of a bitch.
Sorry.
is it a early teen fox? So like,
Is it like Q13 Fox?
the two things that keep me from really liking this one, and I think there's like an 8-minute chunk right in the middle,
Yeah.
that are really excellent, is it's bookended by some really bad like, this is probably like the worst of the nudity
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
in this series.
Yeah, the beginning of this
Really
has
brings it
some,
down.
yeah,
Especially
had
when
some unnecessary nudity. You're right.
Especially because, so like,
Why was the guy naked, guys? Why was he laying there
He was
naked?
tied up but he had a blanket on him. He
Put
just
some pants
shimmied
on.
himself out.
What? Put some
And what
pants
does
on.
that add to the story is my
I'm sorry.
question.
Who got him naked and then tied him up? Or
Probably his dad.
why?
my dad.
Yeah, like why would you tie somebody up naked if you're not already? The fox lady is
You want to
coming.
make it as hard as possible for her to fuck this dude.
Yeah,
it was-
so why
Put him
is he
into all of
naked?
his clothes.
it
He
was
needs to be in full warrior armor.
having
Well,
seen this today, it was definitely hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, I feel like it actually does kind of make sense. Is that I think it coming at it from the perspective of, you know, we have this hunter who is trying to lure out this prey. I like under the assumption that he thinks that they're just like mindless sex goblins who are just going to like try to eat this man. Like
Yeah.
he just literally tied the dude up in the most vulnerable position, just dick out. Like I think that pretty much was like dangling the fruit. So to
Yeah, but
speak.
it's not
Dangle
like
your dongle.
she was gonna
Dangling the
see
berries.
that almost because his plan was to catch her in the courtyard.
Intercept before she
Yeah.
got to that
So
point.
why have him be naked so that if he fails, this guy dies? Like,
You gotta
No,
open up
no,
and get those
no,
dick
no,
juices
no,
out in the air.
No.
Well,
No.
I don't know. I mean, I honestly like.
It was his moaning that was drawing her. It was
Yeah.
his voice. It
Yeah.
wasn't his dick juices.
Yeah.
I think for me the worst of the nudity is the underage fox girl.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, that's a little kid.
But the little kid.
Oh, here come the FBI.
Yeah.
And then,
And
like-
it's a little kid, but it also, I feel like that's the part that I was like, this isn't unnecessary. The guy being naked was unnecessary, but their transformation, because it is implying the simplicity and the naivete, whatever. Word.
Naivete.
Thank you, of her, that she's a natural creature in the
I guess
in the
it's just-
wilderness.
And also, like, it wasn't
she doesn't have.
sexualized.
It's
No,
not
it wasn't.
It wasn't sexualized
And
at all, which
because
made it okay for me. Like that didn't faze me.
It's not sexualized.
I
They don't
didn't
sexualize
like
the
later
young
on in
girl.
the episode. Like again, like sexual violence just fucking isn't my thing. Yeah, it just isn't my thing. And I feel like again, it's a very overused trope, and I think that it can be referenced. I mean, it can be done off screen. I just think that we're in a time where violence against women is such a prevalent issue, and there's so much of it that it doesn't necessarily need to be.
That coming from the women's
Yeah,
woman
no,
point of view on that,
yeah,
I
please.
think that
I defer to
as
obviously.
my feminist view of that is, yes, it is an overly depicted thing because we are trying to make you fucking see it.
Yeah, for
if
sure.
every fucking fuckboy who watches sci-fi watches this episode and again
And is
thinks about
horrified.
fucking rape, it's just one more fuckboy who's not gonna go rape, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want every genre to have these episodes because I want every person who watches any genre to have that horrifying feeling that you have when you see sexual violence. It isn't your thing. It needs to be nobody's thing. Yeah. And the way we get it there is by putting it in front of everybody and making them uncomfortable and unhappy with it.
I think it was just like the level of detail and like the framing of the camera, because you're like, you go like she do like a super close up of all the way down her body. I'm just like, ooh, we didn't need this angle.
That's the other thing too, because I mean, I don't know. Again, just coming off of watching and being horrified by, not to mix genres here, but like Goblin Slayer and like a lot of like unnecessary framing and sexualization of the sexual violence. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I feel like this one, like, kind of
it walks a fine line.
It walks a very fucking fine line, and I feel like it kind of dipped its toe in
too far
in making it like a little sexy, which put me off. But I totally, I agree.
See, and I watched it and didn't find it sexy. I found it.
Well, I didn't find it sexy.
I know,
I just like I felt like the framing.
I didn't see the sexy side of it of that at all. I found it horrifying.
You heard it here first. Harley fucking love it.
Oh God,
I found it horrifying, and as much as this is going to be weird, you dick shots hurt you people, that hurt my body. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I want dudes to feel when they watch that. I want that to hurt your fucking body, you asshole. Because
like as again, to the point of like that like sexual violence being like just really like it is used to pretty great effect if your takeaway is not like, ooh, she's strapped to that table, what's gonna happen? Oh God.
Yeah.
But then I think with this, it's entirely it's kind of neutral on it, so that the person's like, if someone is kind of inclined that way, they're going to be able to see it and go, oh, that's pretty good, as opposed
but that I think that's why they put that initial like cut in before they just cut away to her face reacting to being fucking sawed apart.
It's because they want you to see that as like a, hey,
this is awful.
Yeah. I don't want you to just focus on her face. You need to see how this is fucking awful.
I do. This is probably my favorite of the world building, though, as far as like all the steampunk stuff. I really liked all that.
Aesthetically,
like I said, like
the fact that you get to see his whole life and it grow with the steampunk and with the technology is really cool, and how you see him adapting to each and every
seeing them both, really.
That middle 8 minutes there between those two scenes are really like my favorite part of this series. And I was really like, great. I want more of that and less of the stuff that I'm just like, ooh.
I liked the parts where he was working on her body to make the improvements, to make the changes. I thought that was stunningly done, except for there's one scene, and you guys are going to laugh because I literally just talked about
Is it the butt plate?
It's her. It's almost moaning.
Yeah.
He's working on something and she almost is moaning, and I was like,
she's wincing,
but it's meant to be sexualized.
It's like wincing because it went in a little too quick.
Yeah, it's meant to be sexualized, and I think it's
the butt plate where he kind of like puts it in and she turns around, she's like, ooh, and it's like, oh.
No, he's screwing something and she's wincing, but again, it's because I did it. You're welcome. It's because again, it's almost like that went in a little too fast, but it still feels good kind of wince, and it was like, no.
Yeah. So at the end of this, I want to kind of go around and ask about theories. Is what he did just to make it so that she could transform back into her true form, or can she now go back and forth?
I think she can go back and forth.
If it's a mechanical device, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to go back. I mean, it's if it's all hinges and joints and, you know, steampunk everything else, as she changes from human form to the wolf thing, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to go back, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I think that, I don't know, actually, I hadn't really thought about that at all. I guess I in my initial viewing, my assumption would have been that she could go back and forth, but I think there is a little bit of like melancholy in his, I mean, I don't know, it's animation obviously, but there is a little bit of like melancholy in his animations and his like opinions towards the procedure. So that's actually an interesting concept. I haven't thought.
I actually watched this one today, and the first time I didn't think about it, and I was like, well, she can probably just go back and forth. But when I watched it today, I did pick up on, there did seem to be like, this was like the end of her story. She's gonna go kill all these dudes and then either run off
or inevitably be
killed by police or whatever.
But I think the whole point is that, I mean, it's worth it as long as she kind of can
If
get back to the hunt. I
yeah,
guess.
that's all she wanted was to be able to do that
Her
again, and
purpose.
she has been losing it for so many years. So
Yeah.
that him being able to give her that back, and yeah, like just because of like how the transformation happens, like she has to intake like just a bunch of black powder, and it like initializes something inside of her like that makes the machine start working. This kind of made it seem to me like there was like very much like an air of finality to what was happening.
sure.
And that was like they're parting on the balcony of him, just like his parting thing that he always said to her was just good hunting. And that was just being like, this is it. Like, you just are this now, and you get to go do the thing you've always wanted to do, which is to bring down the people that think they can own you.
Yeah, I don't know if there was like, I don't know if they gave enough away to really point it in one direction or the other, but I think, I don't know, that interpretation to me is probably the better
Yeah.
one. I think it's the more impactful one. But
What I also like about this episode again is that it has it shows a different love. It is not, I love you, you're my soulmate, I'll be with you forever. It is
Thank God they didn't. I was so happy they didn't shoehorn in
different
like a
love,
romantic
and
thing.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yep.
I like things that show a broader range of human emotion, and this one showed showed a good range of human emotion, and it was definitely like,
You can love somebody without,
wanting to bone them.
yeah.
Watching it a second time too, though, I also wish that she had been a bigger part in her story, because this kind of ends up being
Her story is told by men.
yeah.
Her story
Which
is dictated by men.
which is probably one of the reasons why like the sexual violence veers into the icky side, because like it's so much told from like, this thing was bad because it happened to his friend and not because it happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's also a little
Again,
bit of
that is a very common thing, and it usually is how it lands with people to make it feel icky, because men, and I'm sorry guys, but men are programmed to, not programmed, but it's told from a young period of, if women tell us this, it's not always true. And so sometimes, and that's why when media takes it from, this is a male telling this icky story about what happened to this woman, some men are gonna just hear it better.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, and that sucks, and we need to change that.
Yeah,
but I feel like that's also part of why this works and why people feel icky. I would have felt icky either way, no matter who told the story.
Hey everybody, if you're thinking, wait, where the fuck are the rest of the episodes? We actually went a little long, so I'm going to be breaking this up into 2 episodes. But don't worry, everyone, we'll be back for part 2. It will be coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that. Meanwhile, you can find us at Moist Boys Pod on Twitter to get all of our links and all of our social media connections to the World Wide Web. So thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time.